Hi friends, it's Joan at 10 Pentacles Tarot with another 2 for You book review. This time the books have to do with shadow work. I know that's like a big thing lately. You can find tons and tons of YouTube videos about shadow work. And basically shadow work is facing your hidden fears, facing things from your past that you have not fully worked through, healing trauma and things like that. So the first book I have is by Danielle Massi, who is a licensed mental health therapist specializing in shadow work. Okay, and this book was published in 2022 by Sterling Ethos. And I found it very interesting, her introduction, because I could really relate to it. So I'll read it when we get there. But anyway, with this beautiful pinky purple in the front, title page, table of contents, and a foreword by Alison Chabot. Introduction. Okay, this is where it got me. I've been afraid for most of my life. Afraid of the dark, afraid of situations that were seemingly scary, and afraid of my own shadow. The thought of traversing the unconscious mind to re-experience traumatic moments in my history was not something I would have signed up for just a few years ago. But then the unthinkable happened. I was diagnosed with cervical cancer the week before my 30th birthday. The news came seemingly out of nowhere, and it shocked my doctors and me. I had no symptoms and few risk factors, yet cancer came anyway. So she talks about how she spiraled into depression after that, and she blamed herself. So this is what led her into shadow work. And some people go willingly, some people have to have a little push, but I have not done a lot of shadow work yet, but I intend to. So this video is for me as well as for you if you're interested. So we have part 1, the overlap of science and the soul. And Carl Jung said, how can I be substantial without casting a shadow? I must have a dark side too if I'm to be whole. Okay, so blast from the past. She talks about the past. Down the rabbit hole. Living on repeat. How we self-sabotage, exploring the shadow. There's shadow work meditation and journaling. Discover your life lens. What feels most important to you? And then she has a list of things. Which of these things would make you feel worse? This is just understanding trauma, big T and little t trauma, how trauma is stored, trust your body. It talks about the human pendulum, repression and the split, challenging duality. Part 2 is the journey to yourself, or the journey to self, the secret of success. It talks about more it gives you more meditations, redefining success, becoming a magnetic manifester, the perfect world meditation. Learn to listen, opening the door, meditation to connecting with spirit guides, strengthening your clairvoyance, strengthening your clairaudience, strengthening your clairsentience. So it goes again into psychic work as well, and then back to the past, connecting with your past lives. So this is not just shadow work and getting into your trauma. This is also moving forward, and there's what lurks in the shadow, moving forward, and even moving into psychic abilities. So if that sounds interesting to you, human error, hacking your biology to create change from the inside and out, letting go of your attachment to who you've been, overcoming the ego, and then part 3, becoming a shadow seeker, embracing the shadow. Talks about the shadow seeker's method, making your dreams a reality. Okay. Bringing it home. I haven't gotten into this a lot. I was excited about it, and I want to introduce it to you. I found it at Barnes & Noble. It looks like, and then there's endnotes. The price is $19.99 in the U.S., $25.99 in Canada. And again, that is Shadow Work by Danielle Massi. So that's the first book. Now the second one is a Tarot Shadow Work journal. So if you're going to do shadow work, you're going to most likely need some sort of a journal, right? And this one is by Dreya Blume. Now, I just reviewed a couple of other books by Dreya Blume, and she is a psychotherapist and a licensed clinical social worker, and she has some amazing books out there. The first one that I have already reviewed was the Tarot Activity book. Andy Matzner and Dreya Blume are the same person. And the second was Doodling the Tarot, Connecting with the Cards Through Creativity and Mindfulness. And if you want to know more about these two books, check out the video on the Two for You Metaphysical Book Reviews playlist, and you can find out more about those. Now, what I love first of all about this, and I said this about her other book, is that it's big. It's 11. It's 8.5 by 11. Okay, this is a book you can sink your teeth into. All right, so this is what the front looks like. This is what the back looks like. I believe this is self-published. It says made in the United States, Cleveland, Ohio, May 1st, 2025. And there is the code for it right there. And I know you can find these books on Amazon. So again, Tarot Shadow Work Journal by Dreya Blume. Now, finding healing and wholeness through the cards. So she interprets it, or she, not interprets it, but she connects it, rather, with tarot cards, which I think is really cool, and that's like right up my alley. And then there's a whole list of other books by Dreya Blume / Andy Matzner. So it says this, and this is super important. When you're looking through the book, let me just give you a look. There's a lot of writing areas in this book, lots of questions to answer. It says, working through these journal prompts has the potential to bring up strong emotions. Please be sure to have support in place if necessary. Notice if you become triggered. Pay attention to the sensations in your body. Observe the emotions that arise. Take some deep breaths and notice what happens then. For you're no longer in the past, but in the present. Yet your body, your younger self, still lives in the past. That's why we get emotionally activated. So please have an action plan in place to help you manage any distress that you might experience. Somatic grounding techniques such as emotional freedom technique, havening, and the butterfly hug are my favorite ways. This is Dreya Blume talking, are my favorite ways to ground myself, as they instantly let my sympathetic nervous system know that I'm safe. You can easily learn each of these tools by searching for them on YouTube. Again, that's emotional freedom technique, havening, and the butterfly hug. Okay, that being said, what is rewarding is that by engaging with difficult emotions, by processing what has been waiting to be processed, you can finally heal and move forward in your life. At long last, you can become unburdened from unresolved trauma as you complete your unfinished business and liberate your soul. And that, my friends, is what shadow work is all about. Okay, so we have some quotes, some important quotes by people. Here we have misguided thoughts that, people grow up with, like, I'm not supposed to be selfish or arrogant or greedy. It's wrong to lie, to cheat, to steal, to hurt others. And we all feel this way, but our shadow can also contain aspects of ourselves that we've been taught to be ashamed of. That isn't necessarily something that we should be ashamed of. All right, so and the bottom line is we need to be whole. We need to embrace our light and our shadow. Everything is not. In fact, without shadow, we wouldn't, we need shadow to be whole. And Carl Jung said, I'd rather be whole than good. All right, so we start. And she starts with the First tarot card, the Fool. She goes entirely through the entire deck of the tarot cards, and each one has different questions that you can journal. And you don't have to start with the Fool at the beginning. You can start with whatever card floats your boat. You might want to take your tarot deck, shuffle, see what card you pull for the day, and journal on that particular one. Okay, so the Fool. The questions are currently what feels uncertain in your life? How comfortable are you with uncertainty? What emotions come up for you around its presence? How do you typically cope with uncertainty? How is your relationship with uncertainty connected to fear, self-doubt, family of origin issues? What price do you pay when you try to control that which is uncontrollable? What might happen if you began to accept that life is uncertain? What would be helpful to remind yourself the next time you're faced with uncertainty? All right, so the whole theme of the Fool obviously is uncertainty. And then we move to the Magician. And the theme here is power. Okay. And then we move on to the High Priestess. So I'm going to flip to one of the Minor Arcana cards and see what comes up back here. All right. So here is, let's see, the Ten of Cups, like emotional fulfillment. So that's my definition of the Ten of Cups. But the questions asked here are, what pressure have you felt to conform to family of origin standards and rules? How have those expectations influenced your life? What pressure have you felt to conform to societal standards and rules? How have those expectations influenced your life? And some of these have long spaces to answer, and some of them have shorter spaces. Who or what have you idealized over the course of your life? What about currently? Who or what are you idealizing? Why do you think that is? What are the benefits and costs of such idealization? What is a lie you've been telling yourself? And why do you want to believe it? When you were a child, how much attention did your parents pay to you? What impact do you think that has had on your sense of self? So all of these questions about emotional fulfillment and happiness are about you, your parents, and your family life. Because on that card, you see there's a couple and children, and then 10 cups, which represents emotional fulfillment. Okay. When you were a child, did your parents give you guidance that was sensitive to your needs? What impact do you think that has had on your sense of self? When you were a child, did your parents show warmth and physical affection to you? What impact do you think that has had on your sense of self? When you were a child, were you left alone for extended periods? If so, what impact do you think that has had on your sense of self? Were your parents especially fearful or anxious? If so, what impact do you think that has had on your sense of self? And so on. And this card in particular has a lot of thought-provoking questions. And I can tell that this is going to make me really uncomfortable to do. But I'm going to make a big effort to do it because I know that I, at the age of 65, have a lot of unresolved issues. And imagine that if I had worked through them 30 years ago, how much further ahead I would be. Okay, things happen the way they're supposed to. And so I'm not saying, I'm not regretting that. But I'm glad that I can do this now. All right, friends, I see my battery's running out. Thank you for being with me. I want to thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much more than you'll ever know. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever it is where you are. And I